qualified to investigate and locate sources of underwater contamination. The ERT dive team stands ready to take on any underwater environmental challenge. As a part of US EPA's Environmental Response Team, the ERT dive team provides valuable underwater data to OSCs and RPMs, leading to quicker and more cost-efficient cleanup of threatened waters and sediments in the US and around the globe.
I guess to most people, diving is a pretty sexy topic, but the type of diving that we do at EPA is usually done at Superfund sites under rather adverse conditions, which usually involve low visibility, often cold water dives, diving in situations where contaminants or the materials may not be readily visible to the diver. The acquisition of the EPA training and the development of a small group of people within the environmental response team and our contractor has enabled us to provide a type of strike team, a response team for diving in hazardous environments that is almost a one-of-a-kind operation.
Utilizing the latest technology, the team can conduct contaminated waters investigations offshore or on inland lakes and rivers. To help target sources of underwater contamination, initial surveys are made using boat-mounted sonar and magnetometer instrumentation. If levels of contamination are elevated, or if risks are unknown, the team sends in the remotely operated vehicle before any diving activities take place. The ROV's onboard camera, tracking system, and sonar capabilities make it an indispensable tool. Exact target location and confirmation is then verified by dive team members in dry suits designed specifically for contaminated water diving.
Surface Dal, and I copy. Depth 20 feet, vertical core, over.
The fully encapsulated suit is also fitted with communications that allow divers to speak with fellow divers and surface support personnel.
These two drums are right next to each other. I'll finish with the first drum before I go on to the second one.
With the help of a computer-automated mapping system, the team can also plot target locations using GPS. The plots are essential for planning later removal activities with contract divers. These tools and equipment are useless, though, without the proper training and experience. Combined, the dive team has over 50 years' experience in environmental assessment and remediation, and averages over 1,500 hours of dive project time per year. Dive team members also participate on EPA's Dive Safety Board, which manages the National EPA Diving Program and issues the EPA Diving Safety Manual. The ERT assists the board with developing national policy for contaminated water diving. For underwater cleanups, EPA divers can conduct assessments, provide assistance during contractor selection, and provide on-site oversight during removal actions.
There are numerous contractors around the country. However, there's only a subset that are equipped and able to conduct contaminated water diving and conduct fairly specialized activities that EPA may require. Once we're on site and the diver is selected, then we would work closely with them and review their types of equipment, the objectives of the cleanup, and provide on-site oversight throughout the cleanup to see that the site cleanup is conducted in a safe and reasonable manner.
As a component of the environmental response team, the dive team is on call 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and can be on site and in the water in a matter of hours. Often the team dives in rivers, lakes, and quarries where suspended sediments limit visibility and currents displace targets and restrict mobility. The team prides itself on their track record of delivering results in these conditions, which can also be physically demanding.
Well, it's a little bit more intensive physically because not only do you have somewhere between 50 and 100 pounds attached to your body in the form of lead and tanks and so forth, and you're restricted because you're fully encapsulated when you're in contaminated water. in one of these suits. And then you have the addition of trying to perform this labor while maintaining some kind of neutral or slightly negative buoyancy. So it's a little tricky, and that's why we do so much training.
From the detection of submerged chemical drums, to gathering sediment samples at dredging operations, to assisting marine biologists with artificial reef research, the dive team can adapt to the location and get the job done. Take a look.
16th Street roadside was an abandoned quarry which was flooded in the early 1900s and used for a dumping ground for various waste in that urban area. Region 3 contacted us to do an assessment on the quarry to determine the extent of the drum problem in the quarry. So we did a full assessment by doing everything from determining the depths and descriptions of the drums there. We initially did an ROV assessment with our remote operated vehicle.
Initially, we went in there with a ROV, which is a remotely operated underwater vehicle, and we did an assessment of the quarry. After that, we found some objects that did look like drums, so we came back and we did some water and sediment sampling to make sure that contaminants in the water were at a level that we would be able to dive with. We used a number of different divers and about a week's worth of diving to fully search the quarry to locate the drums. Upon locating the drums, we marked them with buoys and got the positions of the drums with GPS. And that made it easier in the future for when the contractor came back to perform the removal to relocate drums.
The ERT dive team has been very helpful to us here. What we do is they're helping us define our extent of contamination out in the harbor, what's left. What we do is we send them out to the areas that we GPS and set buoys at, and they typically get anywhere from 100 to 120 core samples for us within about 3 days, which is very good.
Usually the conditions are low visibility operations. We're usually doing this while we're diving off the vessel that is not anchored. We're drifting in the harbor. The diver must drive the core into the sediment as far as possible, anywhere from 1 to 5 feet. Cap the ends of the core on the bottom, bring it to the surface intact. These are all numbered and analyzed on site for their PCB content.
When this project started up over 4 years ago, the environmental response team was a close partner to the region in making decisions here. They're professionals, they do an excellent job. They are available to us because they're part of the agency, and we can use them when we need them. And that's one of the reasons that we're using the divers. The neutral, professional aspect that they give to the project is much needed.
We were looking for a dive team that could support our operations in the field, diving on our artificial reef sites to look at the biological communities we have. And we were looking for experienced divers that have some training in the biological fields, and the ERT dive team really suited that need. The day we were on the water, we anchored over the site where we had placed the 30 micro reef habitats. We then sent a dive line down and 2 divers, along with the equipment that we had brought along.
You want to tell them that it's on its way down?
We had a mesh bag that could be set over the unit, and then as it was lifted up, there was a drawstring on the bottom that could be pulled shut. And in this way, we could encase the entire habitat inside a very fine mesh bag, hopefully trapping all of the fish, crabs, and other marine life that was on the habitat inside the mesh bag so we could bring it on board and take it back to the laboratory for analysis. In that way, we could look at all of the various communities that live on the reef at one time, at our leisure in the lab, and expend a very little amount of field work doing so. And really, without their help, this project really wouldn't have got off the ground. We have a very limited budget, and the use of the ERT dive team has been really instrumental in doing the field work portion of this project.
some divers reported to us the presence of drums and debris in the river, and we sent out an environmental enforcement officer to investigate. She took some videos of the surface of the bank and then referred it to the site's management section, and then the site's management section asked the EPA for support on investigating underwater the presence of these drums.
And they asked the removal program for assistance in assessing the drums, and we've taken it from there. I notified ERT out of Edison, New Jersey, and they're up with the REACT team diving in the water right now to assess the condition of the drums.
Yes, both appear to be...
We're using the Kirby Morgan Model 2A surface supply unit. It's able to supply 2 divers with surface supplied air. That gives them unlimited bottom time, and it also has hardwired communication.
Okay, and that's also a 55-gallon drum, correct?
Yes, both appear to be 55-gallon.
As they come across drums that might be intact, they're marking them with a buoy. In a little while, either later today or tomorrow, they'll go back underwater to where they've put the buoys and try to assess them further. We'll assess if we need to take any samples or if we need to come back on a second date to actually pull the drums and containers out of the water to fully assess them.
If you have questions about hazardous materials underwater investigation or contract dive oversight, the ERT dive team can provide the answers. Answers that literally lie just below the surface. For more information on the ERT dive team, contact Alan Humphrey at 732-321-6748 or email at humphrey.allen@epa.gov.